everybody,
Hi,
and
Daddy.
welcome to our channel. My name is Sam.
My name is Ryan, and we are back with a deep cut series that we used to do at the very beginning of the Sam and Ryan cinematic universe. Samantha works at Spellbound Studios Incorporated. What are you guys called now? Spellbound
sure.
Inc. They have a big warehouse. We would go up there. We would get all these cameras, all these microphones. We would have a big table, a big setup with all these lights. That. We're not doing that anymore. That took way too much time, but we did like the nuts and bolts of this series. So welcome back to a series that we call Versus, where Sam and I facilitate a conversation about something pretty crucial that is different between us and how that difference affects our life. This episode is Healthy versus Chronically Ill, because, Sam's a normie and I have type 1 diabetes.
Honestly, I bet some people don't even know it's a chronic illness.
Right, you are, Samantha. As a matter of fact, usually when I tell people that I'm chronically ill and they say, "What do I have?" and I say diabetes, they're like, "Oh, well, that's not." And I'm like, "Oh,
Nope.
But it's true. Chronic being forever, ill being not healthy. And diabetes is a forever thing that is indeed an illness. So I am chronically ill, and I'm proud of it.
And I'm healthy.
We're going to dive into this series. If you haven't seen it before, it's very easy. We just ask questions, and we answer them honestly and truthfully with our particular perspectives. We've done anxiety versus depression, man versus woman, all kinds of things. You should check them out. The content on this channel is exquisite. Question number 1. When you worry about money, what are the top 3 things you worry about as a healthy person?
Rent, food, and gas.
Yeah.
Honestly. Top 3 things.
Would you say that's probably a pretty typical response for people?
I would say so. I think those
I
are
think
kind
so,
of like
yeah.
the biggest spending areas for the average human.
Yeah.
What about you?
Insulin, and insulin.
Yeah.
The biggest source of financial instability and financial stress for me is getting on the phone with my insurance companies, looking at their formularies, knowing what types of insulin are covered, knowing how much they're covered, knowing how much I'm going to have to pay out of pocket. I literally hoard medicine, and this is something that many diabetics do. I have a closet full of insulin and syringes and needles and test strips and glucometers and CGMs and all kinds of things on the off chance that my insurance jacks the price and I have to live off of my reserves until I can figure something else out. By far and away, the biggest source of financial stress for me is medicine. Question number 2. When someone makes a joke at your expense, what do they mention?
Honestly, not much comes to mind. Typically, the way I speak or the way I'm currently presenting myself. Something along those lines.
So like something
Just
sort of fluky and circumstantial.
Yeah. What about you? I don't even...
Well, I'll tell you, it's not something fluky and circumstantial.
Yeah,
It's something I can't do anything about that'll never go away. My diabetes.
Yeah.
I completely understand that people try to diffuse tension with humor, and I'm not an emotional hemophiliac. I'm not like chronically offended. I'm just chronically ill. But
Can we put that on a shirt? Not chronically offended, just chronically ill.
yeah, that'll sell like hotcakes to the 5 people who actually buy them and want to wear them.
I think it could do well. Anyway.
All of that is to say, I understand the idea of cutting tension with humor. My only pushback on that is, why is the fact that I am chronically ill causing tension?
Oh, interesting.
There is no tension you have to cut. I can't tell you how often I will pull out my insulin at a meal because I cannot eat unless I do insulin, and I pull up my little shirt and I do the insulin in my stomach. It's not that big of a deal. I don't make a big deal about it. I don't make like an announcement at the table. Everybody, I'm going to do my insulin now. Like, that's not the kind of person I am. I just do it because I have to, and I don't want a lot of attention to it. Without fail, someone will say something along the lines of like, "Oh, can I get a hit of that?" And it's not offensive. It's certainly not original. I'm just sort of like, why do you have to comment on this? And why does literally every single person, I cannot think of a single person in my life other than my family, and actually maybe you, who hasn't made a joke about doing my insulin. I've made jokes about stabbing you with my insulin when I'm mad at you.
Yeah, you have. You've made a lot of jokes about, you've made a lot of insulin jokes. I honestly think that it's something that people aren't familiar with and haven't seen. Like, I feel like that's kind of what the tension tends to be. Isn't like a, oh my God, I can't believe he's doing that, but like, how dare he? Yeah. It's humor out of ignorance as opposed to just being curious.
But I do find it interesting that they are cutting tension that they have caused with their own ignorance, and as a response, making a joke at my expense.
Yeah, no, it's not good.
But it's not bad.
But yeah,
it's just so unbelievably common, and that's the point. The point isn't like I'm so offended and everyone needs to treat me like I'm special because I have diabetes. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that it's noteworthy that these are tension-inducing things rather than things that we can just have like clear, open, and honest conversations about, because I'm not offended that I have diabetes. I'm not offended that you don't know about diabetes, but I'd rather tell you about it or not talk about it at all than you make a stupid joke about like getting a hit of my insulin, which would annihilate you.
Yeah.
This does not belong in your body. It belongs in mine.
How often do you think about your health?
I mean, in the context of my diabetes, at least 3 or 4 times an hour. On a broader level than that, because I have a chronic illness, it affects my endocrine system, it affects my immune system. There are so many parts of my body that are affected and that will be affected long-term by having diabetes. Anytime anything happens to me, if I have a headache, I wonder if it's because of my diabetes. If I have a sty in my eye, I wonder if it's because I have diabetes. If I twist an ankle, I wonder if it's not going to heal properly because I have diabetes. And those are all valid concerns because my body doesn't heal as fast. Like, even if I get a little scratch, I'm like, oh God, is this going to turn into a scar because my scratches don't heal as well as the normal person? Like, anytime anything happens, I view it through the prism of diabetes, not to mention the fact that I have to view most of my everyday activities through the lens of diabetes. Eating, sleeping, exercising, all of those things are affected by having diabetes, and my blood sugar needs to be constantly adjusted based on pretty much any choice I make in my daily pattern.
Yeah, I definitely have the luxury of having a passive relationship with my health. Like, for me, if I get a random headache or a cut or any of the things you listed, I kind of write it off because I'm like, oh, my body will heal itself, or it'll take care of itself and I'll probably be fine. It's not something that I am thinking about during the day unless I am consciously unwell if I'm sick. But even then I know, okay, my body is probably going to kick this cold in like a day or like 2 days. It's not anything larger than the present moment. And I think that's probably the biggest difference, is that yours isn't just the present moment, it's all the potential downriver effects. What has your relationship with your body taught you?
I mean, this is the one silver lining of being chronically ill. On the flip side of what I mentioned earlier, which is definitely what I would associate as a negative thing, which is constantly being aware of every imbalance or every potential threat, I'm also incredibly in tune with my body in a way that most people aren't. I know if something's wrong or going to be wrong way sooner than most people. I am aware of chemical changes in my body because I've had to train myself to be aware of them, like knowing the difference between a headache that is stress-induced versus a headache that's blood sugar-induced, knowing the difference between being hungry and being low. My intuition with my body is so finely tuned that I usually know information before I verify it with a glucometer or some piece of medical equipment. And even though that doesn't like necessarily mean anything, I do think that's pretty cool that I'm so aware of my body and that me and my body have such a sympathetic relationship in that way.
I think for me, the relationship that I have with my body has definitely been more surface level as opposed to function level. But being a healthy person, my relationship with my body has changed in the sense that I'm trying to appreciate it more for the way that it practically supports me and focus less on the aesthetics of my own body. And that's how I feel about it.
All right, last question.
Okay.
Considering where you are at in your health journey presently, is there anything you feel like you can't do?
I mean, I don't know. This is hard because where I'm at with my health journey is that I have a lot of goals, and I feel like the only things blocking me from those goals are mental. I know that I don't have any physical limitations that I'm aware of. I feel like there's nothing I can't do. It's just about overcoming the skill set gap, the information gap, the motivation gap, etc.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, even this question and the way that you approached it, I think delineates a difference between us, because health journey for you is like eating well and fitness. And while that is part of my health journey to me is diabetes first, everything else later.
Yeah.
Honestly, my answer is no. I don't feel like there's anything that I can't do, but I do feel like there are a lot of things that I have to be very specific about how I go about them.
Sure.
So if I wanted to run a marathon, I could run a marathon. But I'm not just focused on staying hydrated and, having one of those Slurpee pouches to make sure I get enough calories while I'm running. I have to be constantly checking my blood sugar. If my blood sugar dips too low and I try to outrun it, there could be severe consequences. If I wanted to go camping, I could go camping, but there always has to be a reserve of sugar. If I wanted to go backpacking across a long stretch of whatever, I could do that, but I would have to make sure that I have a reserve of sugar, a reserve of insulin. If I run out of either of the two and I'm stranded, I'm literally screwed. Like anytime my friends play the what would you do in the apocalypse game? I don't really have an answer, because the true answer of what would you do in the apocalypse is die, because I wouldn't have access to the things that I need. And while I am really fortunate to be alive in the year 2023, where I have access to technology and medicine that can keep me alive, without those goods, my health would decline precipitously and immediately. That informs the way I think about a question like this. I don't feel like there's anything I can't do, but everything that I do needs to be filtered through the prism of how could this affect my diabetes and what am I going to do to prepare for it. It's a lot of risk management and a lot of theoretical preparation for the worst case scenario.
Well, did you enjoy hearing us talk smart?
We love to talk about fun, fluffy stuff on this channel, but we also like getting deep every once in a while.
Absolutely.
And I know that when I've talked about diabetes on like my Instagram lives or my Twitches or whatever, people are really appreciative of that dialogue. Of course, there are a lot of healthy people in the world, and there's nothing wrong with being healthy, but there are a lot of chronically ill people in the world too, and there's nothing wrong with being chronically ill. And I do think that since we're lucky enough to have a platform, and since I do have diabetes, it's nice to entertain the notion of a conversation like this that potentially informs people at best, and at the very least, maybe makes a few people feel less alone.
Absolutely. And if you have any other suggestions for topics for another Versus episode that you would love to see, please leave them in the comments.
As always, be sure to like and subscribe.
And we will see you all next time.
Bye, Daddy.
Bye.